Hi guys, it's ASBYT and welcome back to a brand new video, and today we have a review of a very much talked about smartphone, especially from you guys to me. That is of course the Asus Zenfone 5. I've had my SIM card in this for about a week or so this is my honest and most accurate review I can do at this moment in time. So let's get straight to it. Hi guys, and like I said, welcome back to a brand new video. Asus Zenfone 5 is the topic of today, and in the current smartphone market, we have just had the release of the LG G7. We are also having the release of the OnePlus 6 next week, or at least the launch, and this is another highly requested phone on the channel. Now, although I've actually had my SIM card in this phone for the last week or so to give you the most accurate review possible, I put it back in the box just to give you that unboxing feeling. So, this is the actual box that it will come in. It does say Zenfone 5 on there. It says We Heart Photo, so obviously that's two smartphones together. That's quite a nice touch. And obviously that gives you an idea of one of the focuses of this phone, of course, the camera. Then, of course, on the back, the first thing you'll notice is, of course, the 6.2-inch display there. Dual SIM, 4GB of RAM, the 6.2-inch display like I mentioned, which is a full HD IPS screen, and the resolution is 2160 by 1080. You've got a dual rear camera, 8MP and a 12MP, and an 8MP front-facing shooter. The main 12MP camera is f1.8 aperture, and the secondary lens is f2.0 aperture. And the front-facing lens also has f2.0 aperture as well. 64GB of storage on this variant, and that's all the main details you need to know. Let's crank this bad boy open. Crank! Oh, such a nice feeling. Right, so in here, as you can see, you've got We Love Photo again. We take that out. We've got the phone in here. Push that to one side for a second, and this will slide out. Careful not to break it. Let's give it a little push. Oh yeah, there we go. The front, and of course, the back as well. After watching this review, if you are interested in going through and purchasing, I will leave a link in the video description below with one of the best prices at this moment in time. Any discounts I have, I will leave. And in here we have a case, which is pretty good, nice to see, as always with the smartphone manufacturers, to include that little detail. You've got your manual and just a bit more information there. And then of course you have your charging brick and your charging cable, which is Type-C. And you also have some earphones, which I think is again quite a nice touch, which you don't often find anymore with smartphones. A lot of them used to do it and then they stopped doing it, and Asus, yeah, thanks for that. But nevertheless, let's get straight back to this phone. So the first thing that you're going to notice from that screen is how little bezels there are around, other than the small chin at the bottom and that at the top, which we're not going to talk too much about because we seem to talk about it on every single video, but it is still the biggest talking point of 2018 with smartphones. You either are not really bothered about a notch, or I hate them with every inch of me, and I'm more towards they don't really bother me as long as the device is good. I'll show you where it does bother me and we'll get to that. There are slightly bigger bezels on the sides, for example, than I would personally like to see, but again, it's not a deal breaker. Now, the actual panel itself is fairly bright. It's got nice punchy colours. The clarity is very, very good. It's not quite as bright as the OnePlus 5T. I'll just show you as an example. Right, so as you can see there, they're both on the table side by side, and while you can't probably see that much of a difference, there is a slight difference on the OnePlus 5T. It's slightly brighter, and it's more from the fact of the viewing angles. So where I'm sat here looking at it across, it looks far brighter on the OnePlus 5T. From above where the camera is, it's not as much. So when you're viewing it how you would normally view a phone, you're probably not going to have too many problems with the brightness. Even outside, it's not the brightest phone. Nevertheless, it's not a dull screen. So that is the front. We're now going to turn around to the back. I'm just going to wipe it down because it is a fingerprint magnet. Now, because it's made of metal and glass and is a fingerprint magnet, that is one of the downsides. But one of the good sides is they've stayed with their very traditional build quality, using this sort of ring effect, which gives off a great shimmer when you've got light bouncing off the back. And the ergonomics of it mean that the actual fingerprint sensor is right in the middle of where those concentric circles actually lie. and I'm a big fan of that. Dual camera on the top left-hand side, similar to the iPhone 10, with the flash below it, and then the logo and a little bit of text there. Right-hand side, you've got your volume up and down rocker and your power button, and on the other side, you have your SIM card tray there, which supports dual SIM and a micro SD card slot. We've got Type-C charge, and it charges roughly around 2 hours for a full charge. It's not quite as quick as, say, again, I'm going to use the OnePlus 5T as an example. The dash charge on that is quicker, but it is nevertheless still fast charging. And you have your headphone jack, which is a bonus to a lot of people still. And you have one speaker there, but the great thing about this is we have another speaker coming off the earpiece there. So we have stereo speakers on the Zenfone 5, which is very, very popular amongst audiophiles out there. And the actual sound quality is one of the best I've heard on a smartphone. We're just going to test that, so I'm just going to load up YouTube and I'm going to play my latest video for copyright reasons. Obviously, not just because I want to watch myself. I'm not that vain. Right, so first I'm going to actually play it facing the microphone so that you can see exactly how loud it is, and then I'm going to talk about the notch a little bit and how it works in terms of viewing media. Right, you ready? Hi guys, it's ASBYT and welcome back. Sorry, I'm going to have to take them off. That is absolutely ridiculous. So you can actually see straight away that the volume is very, very loud. Just going to skip it on a little bit as well. For all of that information. First, we're going to get to what is in the box. So we're going to do a little bit of an unboxing now. So the sound is very, very loud. It's very, very clear. Sound, big plus. In terms of the actual viewing, because of that notch, as you can see here, right there, you don't see it. You don't see any problems because we are in the 16:9 ratio of the recording, which is still the standard for a lot of media. However, when you pinch to zoom and go out, or the opposite of pinch to zoom, there it comes into play. So we have now the whole phone being taken up with the picture other than that notch. So if that's going to annoy you, if you use that pinch option for a lot of YouTube viewing and stuff like that, then that would potentially be an issue for you. If you can get over it, then brilliant. Also, on the design language of this phone, I feel it's potentially a little bit thick for my liking. It feels very premium. The glass and metal design is lovely. Large screen, as I've mentioned, but it just feels a little bit thick. Again, I'm going to compare it to the OnePlus 5T, and the OnePlus 5T just feels a little bit more premium in that aspect. I just feel the build language is a little bit confusing because, again, this is just my opinion, I prefer a rounded backed phone or a completely square phone. I don't like a kind of a halfway house which feels square but with rounded edges and feels a bit blocky, if that's a description. Blocky? Yeah, it feels blocky. And it also feels slightly wider than a lot of other phones in its class. Wow, I've been watching too many car videos. In its class. Is it something to consider? Possibly. Is it a deal breaker? Probably not. Right, so we're now going to jump on to the fingerprint sensor, and then we're going to get onto Face ID and on from there. So the fingerprint sensor is okay. It does pretty much what you need it to do. As you can see, I put it on there and it loads up. I put it on there and it loads up. It's not as quick as the OnePlus 5 series. It's not as quick as some of the new Xiaomi phones. As you can see there, that didn't register, so it's certainly something they could work on for a future product. It wouldn't stop me buying the phone because it does pretty much work 95% of the time, and it's pretty snappy. It's not the quickest, but it's certainly no slouch. But here is one thing that would be a deal breaker for me if I was adamant on using Face ID, because the Face ID on here is pretty poor. I'll just load it up now, so I'll flash it towards my face. And it's now done it. I know you can't see it, but I'm being as honest as I can. So I'll press it. And that time it didn't register. I'll do it again. Now it's done it. So it is, again, not as quick as the iPhone, not as quick as the OnePlus 5, and not as accurate as either of them either. In fact, it's not even as accurate, I don't think, if I can remember, as the Elephone U Pro. Although it does say in the description for the Elephone U Pro, you can basically unlock it with anything that's shaped like your face, so an egg. So I wouldn't say the Elephone U Pro was the most secure, so I prefer to go with this if it's a bit more secure than the Elephone U Pro if it's quicker, but you can unlock it with a round object or an oval object. So fingerprint sensor, yes. Face ID, no. Right, now we're going to jump onto the camera because this is one of the biggest selling points of the Zenfone 5. And I actually am quite a big fan of the camera. While it's not going to be the best on the market, it is pretty good when you consider the price range. It is up there. This is in a similar price range to the Elephone U Pro, and the camera on this far superior to that phone. I'll just flash a few photos on the screen now that you can see, and I took some of these in good lighting conditions, as you can see from the sunshine. And what you do get It's nice clarity, nice colors and contrasts. The blur effect works very, very well, or the bokeh effect, however you want to call it. It does work very, very well, as you can see from some of the pictures of my cat, and of course, some flowers as well. What's interesting about this phone as well, similar to the Huawei P20, it does use AI for the camera as well. So when you're taking photos, it will register what sort of subject matter it is. If it's an animal, it will flash up with a little animal icon. The same for flowers, etc, etc. I think, again, there's up to around 19 different AI pointers for it to find on the specific subject matter. If that sentence made any sense. It seemed to work most of the time, and it will change the processing of that photo according to the subject that it's taking the picture of. Also, in low light situations, I was expecting it to let itself down, but actually I found that low light situations are quite good as well. Excuse all the children's toys, but nevertheless you get an idea for the low light capabilities. Some of these photos were taken with flash and some without, and both are pretty clear. Now, another big point about the camera is the fact that it does have something that is still pretty rare on the market at this moment in time, and that is a wide angle lens. So on this side, as you can see, you've got a normal lens, and then this one is the wide angle lens. And as you can see, you get a much different aspect between the two, and that's really important, I think, when you're taking photos, especially outdoors, especially of people and animals groups, things like that. Very, very important. You also have the blur mode, which is on there. You've got the depth effect, as you can see, and that just toggles on and off. You've obviously got pro mode, which you can go to as well, and then you've got your video recording here as well, and that shoots up to 4K at 30 frames a second, which, again, considering the price point, is decent to have a 4K camera. Now we're going to switch it and do the front-facing shooter, the selfie mode, and let's see how this performs. Front-facing shooter is very, very good. It also has a portrait mode, so the bokeh blur effect as well on the front-facing camera, which is another good trait, which a lot of other phones in the price range don't, and I'm just going to try that here. And again, that's pretty impressive. If you zoom in on the actual hair as an example, it does actually pick out the majority of the strands. There's only a couple of little blurred ones there. Outside of that, that is pretty impressive. And also the detail on the shoulder. I'm very, very impressed with that front-facing camera. And for this price range, it's absolutely brilliant. Now we're on to performance, and the performance of this phone is one of the quickest phones you will get outside of the 800 series of Snapdragon, etc. This is using the Qualcomm Snapdragon 636, and it's a really, really great processor. It works very, very fluidly. I've had probably one lag or freeze in a week of use, and that is pretty impressive, to be honest. Yes, if you compare them side by side with a Snapdragon 835 or a Snapdragon 845, the newest one from Samsung and OnePlus 6, etc., and the LG G7, you will notice it very, very, very minor. But the Snapdragon 600 series has improved so much. The 636 is a really, really cracking little processor. The only one time I did mention that I had a bit of a lag was when I was scrolling through a quite intensive website with videos and photos and stuff like that. And as and when I was scrolling, it did lag a little bit on the, on that scroll. Outside of that, I've had no problems really whatsoever. Very, very impressed. Look at that. It's like a DJ mix. No? I need to get out more. In terms of the OS, it is running Android Oreo, but it does have a skin over the top. It's got Zen UI. While it's not the worst skin, it is nevertheless not stock Android. So if you are a stock Android fan, then this might not be for you. Or, of course, you can throw a launcher on it, a stock Android launcher, and then you'll be fine. They have reduced the amount of bloatware they use on their Zen UI over the last few years, which is a great thing because it used to be quite horrendous. Now, one of the other points about this phone in terms of the AI aspect to it is there is kind of like a boost mode, which when you turn it on, it says boost may slightly affect your battery usage time. And basically what it means is it's going to improve the device's performance. So if you're gaming, for example, or you just want some high power usage, you want some pure hardcore speed, then of course you can put that on and it will work. It will drain your battery quicker. Equally, you can turn it off and then it will save your battery and all that sort of stuff. So battery 3,300 milliamps, and I've had no problems really with the battery life. As always, when you are looking to buy smartphones from an online source, always check that the network bands available work with your current provider. As always, on the link that I've left in the video description, there is a section at the bottom under the product. It tells you what bands it's compatible with, and double check those 4G bands with your provider. And that is as accurate and honest a review I can do at this moment in time, based on the fact that I've been using this for around a week. I will of course be doing a follow-up video hopefully in about a month or so's time, so make sure if you are new to the channel and want to see that, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so when I do post a video on that, you can see it as soon as it drops if you are interested in buying it. Again, link in the description with one of the best prices at this moment in time. So that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about the Asus Zenfone 5. Is it a phone that you are looking to go and purchase? Is it something that you would like to see comparisons with? Like and share if you did enjoy this video and found it helpful. Subscribe and hit that little notification bell. Like I said, if you are new to the channel and love everything tech, pretty much daily content on the channel, I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. ASBYT, peace out.